Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Fulfillment Mindset Podcast. I'm Josh, and in this second episode, what we're going to go over is the victim versus gratitude mindsets and what they mean, how they can shift from one side to another, and how it can really change your life and turn things around. I know that for me, this was a massive point of self-awareness for me. And when I was able to pretty much acknowledge shortcomings and acknowledge things that happened in life and they weren't necessarily the fault of other people, I could shift myself from the victim to being grateful for things, being grateful for opportunities, and retaining that control in different situations, which means that I could grow and I could make things better for myself. So by doing that, I'll kind of explain a little bit in the episode. Obviously, I recorded this after the episode, so I kind of know what I talked about. And in the episode, I pretty much go through a few different examples. I explain and break down what the victim mindset is, break down what the gratitude mindset is, how they're different, how you can shift from one to the other, and give you a couple practical examples. I know it's tough because sometimes people don't always give you examples of what they mean or how you can do it and how you can do it in your life. But I do my best to try and break that down and explain it to you. And I think it did a pretty good job. And I'm pretty excited about this. This one to me is something that's pretty close to my heart and really shifted a lot for me in my personal life. So really excited to get this one out there. Really excited to explain things to you guys. And without further ado, let's dive into the episode. In this episode, I want to go over the thought concept between a gratitude and a victim mindset. So it's the gratitude versus victim mindset. And this is something that to me has been a pretty important concept, I think, to grasp overall, just because once I understand how this works and I've kind of figured out that I need to lean more towards one side than the other, or, the mood that you're in can be shifted by understanding, the victim or the gratitude mindset that you're in. It can really shift, the positive or negative thoughts that you have in your life. So I think this is definitely something valuable to get out there to talk about and to help other people understand, because it was such a big concept for me that once I grasped it, it really changed a lot of things about what I do and how I view things. So I really want to put this out there to kind of help you guys shift a little bit of your consciousness and understand what it is that can do to pretty much turn your life into a more positive experience, and then in turn, obviously start viewing things with exponential growth. And once you start seeing it with what the victim mindset and the gratitude mindset can do against each other. So basically what this gratitude and victim mindset is in life, there's basically two ways that you can approach any given situation. One is with the victim mindset and the other is with the gratitude mindset. As the victim, you blame others for the failures or shortcomings. By doing this, what happens is you subconsciously program your mind that you can't control what happens to you because it's based on others' actions. So you're telling yourself that what is happening to me isn't my fault. It's other people are doing something to me, or other things are doing something to me, or whatever, something else is happening to me. I can't control it. It's their fault, or it's its fault, or it's something else's fault, not my own. So subconsciously, you're programming yourself to think of you're not the problem, something else is the problem. And what happens with that is when you do that, right? Since it's not based on your actions, what you're doing is it takes away your power to improve. And that leaves you in a sense, in a mindset, in a state of never making changes unless external factors change. So it's detrimental to progress because you never see as you being the problem. You always see it as other people. And this really plays into when you're at a lower state of consciousness, or we'll say when you're younger in your development and you haven't quite gotten to the point where your personal growth and your personal confidence and your understanding yourself is really that strong. You're kind of at a younger state. And this doesn't mean age, right? It doesn't mean younger age. It just means younger state of mind, right? You haven't allowed yourself to kind of think through this conceptually. It really shows that in order to do so, in order to really want to grow and in order to do things better, you have to get yourself out of other people are doing things to me. And you have to put yourself in the concept and the mindset of, I can do this to myself. I can make the changes. I'm responsible for things. And that's what shifts you away from the victim mindset and puts you more in the gratitude mindset. So the other side of the spectrum is the gratitude mindset, right? So with the gratitude mindset, you see every failure or shortcoming is a valuable lesson that pretty much teaches you something that drives success. So you retain the power to yourself as something that you can control and not an external factor that you cannot control. This mindset gives you the ability to make a change without relying on others. Successful people oftentimes will think with a gratitude mindset and not the victimhood mindset. So you always have to ask yourself, which side are you on? And are you approaching situations in more of a victim mindset as opposed to gratitude mindset? So biggest thing, right? I'll give you an example from my personal life. I'll say when I was looking at certain relationships, right? I was in a relationship, and I'm sure if you kind of listen to the first episode, when I go over kind of more of the personal experiences that I've gone through, I was in one relationship that was super, super important to me. I think it was the person that I was supposed to be with. The universe aligned everything. Everything felt right. Pure peace and joy and energy, was just in harmony. However, it didn't end up working out, right? Because I wasn't the person that I needed to be. Now, by me merely saying that, right? By me understanding that it wasn't something else that happened to me. It was me not quite being there for somebody else, right? It was more on me. I wasn't prepared and I wasn't ready and it was me, right? I understand that. Now, by doing that, right, I take the gratitude side. I'm grateful that relationship existed and it had occurred. And it's more of a personal thing that happened, right? I'm not the victim in this, right? It wasn't her while, she started backing away and she wasn't feeling it and this and that. If I were to look at it, which I initially did, right? I initially looked at the relationship as she shouldn't have backed away. She shouldn't have told me she loved me if she didn't mean it. And she shouldn't have done this. By doing that, I was in the victim mindset. That's initially what happened. I initially approached it as that same way. Back when I had the affair and I was going through the divorce and all that stuff, with that whole relationship, I looked at it as she did me wrong. It's her fault. Why did that happen to me? How could she do that to me? Right? I saw this as a victim situation. I was victimized in the way that everything went down. But by doing that, by constantly saying I was the victim, I never improved. I never really sought growth. I never sought improvement for myself as I moved forward through life. And I found myself continuing to stick in these perpetual relationships that were just perpetually diving down and just terrible. They were never going to fulfill the same fulfillment that I wanted. They were never going to get to where I wanted to be. It was just kind of like eternally doomed almost, if you think of it like that, right? It was never going to get anywhere because I constantly viewing things that happened to me as the victim. I never really took personal responsibility for anything. And then, after I met this one girl that I thought, was the person that I should be with, and it ended up not working out. Again, I stuck with the victim mindset, and I didn't quite understand, that it wasn't necessarily that she had done things to me that she shouldn't have, but more of how can I be grateful and understand the situation and see for the good that came out of it, right? It was a beautiful relationship. It showed me what I wanted. It showed me the things that I desired in a woman and in a girl and somebody that potentially one day would be a spouse and have kids with and grow a family and all that stuff. So by kind of taking a more of a gratitude approach to it, I can acknowledge that there's good in that relationship. There's things that I want to take out of that relationship and bring it into the next one. But I'm not going to sit here and be victimized as we go forward. I'm going to take personal responsibility for it, retain that control for myself to make those changes as I go forward. And in turn, that makes me grow. So now I can recognize too the difference in just who I am and my personality and my life growth and the stages that I've taken to develop. I can notice that now by me acknowledging those things and being grateful for the opportunities and the relationships and the lessons that I've learned and, going through the divorce and what that all taught me and meeting the girl of my dreams and watching her walk away, getting to see kind of all the pros and cons and the good and the bad that happened in each one of those. I'm grateful for that because before, when I met that girl, I wasn't who I am today. I was not Josh at that time like I am Josh today. I was just some punk that couldn't get over his divorce, his cheating ex-wife, and was in a super broken place in life. That's who I was. And I needed to go through that breakup before I could understand and become the guy that I needed to be today. So I'm grateful for that opportunity because I wouldn't be here where I'm at without that breakup and without learning those lessons, right? So retaining the control, watching myself grow, and seeing those lessons, that's kind of the message that I want to get out and portray between the victim and the gratitude mindset. Every single situation you approach in life has one of two ways that you can view it. Now, let's take something like a job, for an instance, right? There's two major stressors to anybody's life. It's finances and relationships. Those are the two biggest causes of stress in any person's life. If you can pretty much narrow it down to those two reasons. Anything else probably is not going to be as big as a relationship stress or a financial stress. In a relationship, finances, whatever, right? It's going to come down to one of those two things, no matter what kind of stress or things you're going through. So when we look at it like that, when we start narrowing it down, kind of narrowing down those two different things, we can always take a certain lesson from each one. Are we approaching it with the victim mindset, or are we approaching it with the gratitude mindset? Chances are, if somebody fired you because they're a bad boss, or somebody did this, because they don't like you, or they're not, fond of you, or they didn't approve of something that you did, or they don't understand, right? Those are all victim mindset thoughts. Those are all things that you would think in the victim mindset state. Now, if you left a job and you were like, hey, you know what? Thank God, I'm appreciative for the opportunity that job gave me. That was an awesome career. That was an awesome time that I had. I learned a lot of great things. I got a lot of valuable skills from that. Look at all these things that I can take away from this and bring it to my next job. I know that I'm going to find something that's here, that's next, that's coming, that's going to be better. That job offered a lot of opportunity and it gave me the things I need to grow to be successful in my next one. That's a gratitude mindset. Notice the difference between the two. Notice how one, you leave control to somebody else, to external factors that you can't change. You leave it on your boss, you leave it on some bad employees, you leave it on somebody tattling on you, you leave it on some maybe poor customer reviews or something. You leave the control in the hands of someone else, which means it's not your fault. Which means you can't control it. You'll never grow with that. You will never grow or see development with that. Albeit, right? Maybe there was some negative customer review. Maybe your boss is an asshole, right? Maybe that is the case. But even if your boss is an asshole, you can be grateful for different things that have happened. And you can look at it as, how do I retain control in the situation when my boss is just a dick and really doesn't like me? I did something and it went against maybe some poor policy that he wanted to do that wasn't morally correct or ethically correct, and I went against him. Well, guess what? Be grateful that this is actually going to be better for you then, because you don't have to stick around with somebody that's going to make you do something that's morally or ethically unjust. You get to switch out of that career and you get to take your talent somewhere else that's going to appreciate that you're sound of mind and you're a morally and ethically straight person. Start thinking of things, right? See, just like that pure shift right there gives you control of the situation, which means you can change it. You take it out of the hands of the other person, you all of a sudden change it, and you start thinking of things differently. You start thinking of, that was pretty cool. I'm glad that I don't have to deal with that anymore. I can take my talents to somebody that's going to appreciate it and use them for the right reasons. Now I know the next place that I'm going to be is going to be that much better. Now I know that I'm going to be making progress. Now that I know I'm going to be moving forward, no matter what happens in life, I'm going to be successful because I have a gratitude mindset and I'm going to be appreciative and understand the good in everything as opposed to taking everything as a victim. I'm going to retain control for myself, right? I've talked to a few people that are like, well, Josh, I've kind of grown up in a pretty shitty situation to where I can't, I didn't get as lucky of a head start as, some other people. I grew up in a rundown neighborhood. My parents weren't very well off. My father left my mother at a pretty young age. And, I don't know how I could have the same chances and opportunities as someone else. And I tell them the same thing. Are you looking at this as a victim from mindset? Or are you looking at this from the gratitude point of view? And I sit there and kind of let the silence kind of come over them and make them think a little. And typically what they'll do, if they're being honest with themselves, right, and they're thinking about it and they really do want to grow, they'll be honest with themselves. And they're like, well, I guess it would be the victim mindset, but I just don't understand how. And I tell them, well, hey, listen, everyone's got hardships no matter what you do, right? Your hardships are probably different than my hardships. I've gone through different things than you have. However, I have taken it from the point of view as I'm grateful for everything that's happened to me. I've found good in everything that's happened to me. And I've used it as a way to propel me forward to make my life better, right? To make me successful and to build me up and to push me to new ends and to learn new things and all that. Whereas you're looking at the hardships and the experiences that you've gone through as an external factor of something that you can't control, as an external factor of something that's going to haunt you or, be present in the rest of your life and never pretty much be something that you're going to get rid of or let go or move past. So when we have those conversations and they start seeing that and they start kind of understanding like, okay, so how can I look at my upbringing, maybe in a negative family or a family without a father or in a different type of income level, right? Maybe in a poverty type mentality that they grew up in, using that as a strength, right? We find that if you start viewing those things as, okay, so what are the things that I can be grateful for in those situations? Well, listen, you probably, developed a close relationship with those people that are close with you, right? You may have developed a pretty solid sense of self. Maybe you understand what you can and can't do pretty well. You're pretty confident in who you are and in the things that you can achieve. Maybe you've understood what it's like to be coming from those situations, and you can take those things and you can develop them into, business tactics and business moves and opportunities. Those kind of things, once you start seeing it, like, okay, so what are the different things that I can do to progress and to make things even better? You start shifting yourself away from the victim mindset and you start shifting yourself into the gratitude mindset. And once you do that, you start seeing growth. One of my clients came from, it's kind of an example from his testimony and his life, but he came from a pretty rundown family. Father ended up walking out on his mother when he was about 3 years old. So he doesn't really remember much of his dad, other than, kind of some negative memories. But regardless, him and his mom grew up, just him and his mom. And she worked pretty much like 2 or 3 jobs, never had a lot of time for him, and didn't develop a very personal relationship with her. And that, I think, has kind of always bothered him, that when he goes to school and stuff, all the other kids are close with their families and, really appreciate, having that close family bond. And he feels like he is not advantaged or not as privileged as those other people. And he looked at that as a negative in his life, right? So he saw those things as negativities and things that were only going to suppress his success or his ability to achieve success down the road. So our thing is let's understand the victim gratitude mindset concept. Let's understand that and see how we can move from one side to the other. So coming from all those things, right, what we ended up doing is we ended up finding out that he really cherished family bonds. He also really understood what it meant to come from nothing and to grow, something beautiful out of that. And what he really wanted to do is he wanted to help others pretty much experience the life that he didn't get to have when he was older, right? And the cool thing about it was he had this drive that he never wanted to go back there. He never wanted to live that life. And in order to do so, he wasn't fine on just settling with a 9-to-5 job. He knew that having a 9-to-5 job would limit his income and keep him at one certain point that business thought he was worth. So he started a new job, and he started a business moving dumpsters. And it was kind of a cool concept, because he's like, Josh, I can buy one and a truck and this and that, and I can rent it to people. And the more I get, the more I grow, and it's easy. And all I have to do is drop them off and pick them up and then, dump the load, and I take it to the next place and they rent it and I collect money the whole time. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. Like, you're fired up about it. I love that. You're crushing it, dude. And he's like, it's because I'm never going to go back to that lifestyle that I grew up in. I want so much more for my kids and my family. And I'm going to be the best father, and I'm going to have so much time with them. And if I can get, this number of dumpsters, then when I meet a girl and have a family, he's like, I'll be making so much in rent that I don't even have to be working. I can hire somebody else to do what I'm doing right now, and I can pretty much just live on the residual income. He's like, it's awesome. We can travel and we can do this. And it was his motivation and his drive that he learned from his broken childhood. Those lessons are what drove him to find this success and where he's at today. And it really motivated him. He found something to be grateful for despite what had happened in his childhood, despite something that he thought he didn't have the privilege or he didn't have the same opportunities as other people, he found something to be grateful for. He shifted himself from being a victim of something he couldn't control to being grateful of things that he could control. And he used that to fire him up and move him in a direction to become financially independent and confident in himself, to the point where he was never going to hold a 9-to-5. He was going to be a father different than what his was. He was going to give his kids a lifestyle and a childhood that he never had himself. And it's not that his mom was a bad parent or anything. His mom was doing everything she could, but he didn't want that for his kids. He wanted to be present, and he wanted to have a family and have a wife and have a relationship and have this beautiful thing going to where he could do something that he wanted for his kids. And I think that's a perfect example of how you can shift yourself no matter what the circumstances are, right? You can shift yourself from being a victim in any given situation. There's always something you can do to shift yourself from being a victim to being grateful and finding gratitude in it. No matter what you do, there's always something you can find to be grateful about. And the more you do that, the more you find gratitude in things, the more you'll notice your mindset is very, very happy. You'll be a happier person if you can be grateful for the things that are going on in your life. If you're feeling down and bummed out and you feel like you're in a slump, right? You're in a shitty mood and there's kind of just feeling off today, things aren't right. Maybe you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, you missed your workout in the morning, and you're just kind of feeling like you're in a slump. Stop, breathe for a minute. Maybe sit down if you got a corner of the room or the house or something. If you got a spot out in the yard or on a walk or on a trail, stop, sit, breathe, close your eyes and just breathe and take some, time to yourself and think, all right, didn't get off on the right foot. What can I be happy about? And sit there and think about it. You'll find something. Maybe you're grateful that, you know what? I was able to pay the bills this month, and that was awesome. And I'm going to continue to do that, and I'm continue to grow and get myself there. Maybe you're going to sit there and you're going to think, you know what? I'm happy I found the woman of my dreams, like I wanted to. Or maybe you're going to sit there and be like, you know what? I'm glad I'm listening to this podcast because it's already shifted my mind from where I was to where I'm going to go, and it's going to be beautiful. Maybe you had a rough day, but things other than today have been going pretty well. And maybe you're like, you know what? Today's not going as well as yesterday did. And I don't like that. And that's not good. And you feel kind of weird about it. Guess what? Yesterday was a pretty sweet day though. So be happy about that. Be happy. You're like, you know what? I saw what a cool day was like. I'm going to be happy that I actually know now. I feel this bad, negative way right now. I feel this negative energy today because yesterday was such a good day. Today isn't. But because of that, now I know what good looks like. And now I can do that. I can repeat it again. Maybe you just got out of a pretty rough breakup, right? This is something I unfortunately have a lot of, well, I guess not unfortunately, but I have a lot of experience with. And maybe you just got out of a relationship that you weren't the one that decided to do the breakup, right? Maybe you were the one that was really genuinely in love and having a great time. And the other person was seeing things differently. And maybe you're just having a rough time about that, right? You're really beside yourself and you're just upside down and the world's turned inside out and you don't quite know what to do with yourself. Well, maybe you can sit there and you can think and you're like, you know what? At least I learned what a good relationship was like. And now I know what I want when I see something again. And I'm not going to settle for anything less than that. In fact, I'm only going to settle for something that is better than this. The next relationship I find, because I'm going to meet a lot of people. And when they're not right, when they're not as good as what I had before or better, I'm not going to settle for it. I'm only going to settle for something that's better than what I just had. Maybe you can think like that. You can find that. Maybe you just got fired from a job, right? Maybe you just got laid off or you're really contemplating because you dread your job. Maybe you dread waking up and doing the same damn thing every single day and you hate it. You don't enjoy it. You probably don't enjoy the people you're around. You don't like your boss. Maybe you just don't get along with some people, right? Sit there, breathe, close your eyes and think, what can I be grateful for about this though? Maybe you can be like, you know what? This may put me in such a place with this job that it's going to essentially force me to make a decision to get out, right? It's kind of like your back is up against the wall. You're forced to make a choice. You have to make a decision now because you got no other options. You're at such a low point that, you know what? I have to make a choice now. I've been pushed to the brink and now I'm at the edge and I got to make a choice. And you can be grateful for that, right? You can be grateful that your eyes have been opened and that you're recognizing that this is a chance for an opportunity. Here's my time to take it. And maybe that means you leave the job. Maybe that means you start your side hustle. You start that bakery you always wanted to, or you start teaching those cooking classes, or, you start picking up more properties managed, or you start taking on more lawns to mow because, those are the little side hustle things that you wanted to do, or you've always thought about doing to make more money. And by doing that, maybe then it spurs into something that's incredible growth and you can't stop it. And people keep calling you and they want you to do more and more and more for them. And then before you know it, now you're not working your 9-to-5 job. You're doing this instead and you started your own business. Be grateful, right? That you were pushed to that brink, that you were pushed to the edge to the point where you were forced to make a decision, that you were forced to do something different. There's always something to be grateful for. You just got to find a way to see it. So that's pretty much, that's really what I really wanted to talk about today, because I think that's a very prevalent thing, especially in today's society and what's going on. Don't fall victim to the victimhood mindset. It's dangerous. It's toxic. It'll destroy you and your mindset and your mentality as you go through life. Instead, find gratitude in every situation. Find things to be grateful for. Use that as a springboard for your next launch point. Remember, like I said, no matter what you're doing, if you're feeling like you're in a weird place, stop, breathe, think, find something to be grateful for, and then move forward from there. So that's all I have for today, guys. Tune in next time. Episode 3 is going to be another similar concept, but I think you guys are really going to like it. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you guys soon.